Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Birak, and I'm an astrologer, and I work with Archangel Metatron in bringing forward messages and in doing healing work in client sessions. And any information that you might need about me is in the description box below, as well as anything that I reference during this recording. I want to say welcome to all of my new subscribers, and I want to thank everyone for their likes and comments and dislikes and the emails of support that I get. I'm very grateful and appreciative. Dislikes count for the YouTube, the powers that be at YouTube as much as the likes, because any attention paid is a point for YouTube. So, or how they see it and how they decide that they're going to distribute the video. I had someone asking me about that last week, so I just wanted to put that out there. I also wanted to just recognize some people who sent me gifts a while ago that I had out on my desk for so long to talk about, and I kept forgetting every single video. I would finish the video and be like, oh no. But it was because I had one of my children coming to visit and who has not stayed in my house for a very long time. So I was making up a bedroom, and I needed them to be in that bedroom. And then they were down there, but we're bringing them out now because the colors are important for us this month, okay? So this is by my friend Greg, who is an artist living in Los Angeles. Not sure how much of this you're going to be able to see, but it's with Japanese paper that he painted silver. It's so beautiful. And then Brenda sent me, and I was thinking of it as a space clearer, Metatron said to me, and enhancer. So we've got the same color theme. Here we go. Isn't that beautiful? With the feathers and the stones, there's copper, there's a little angel there. So I will put their information in the description box, and thank you, Brenda and Greg. I love them very much, and I'm very grateful to both of you, and I love that space enhancer. So today we're going to talk about the Astrology of October, and October is we have a lot of Plutonian energy. I felt like the new moon video that I made last week could have just been called the stationing of Pluto, right? That's pretty much what he was getting to during that video. But I mean, that was the energy that we were working with in the new moon. And then, I said on my page, it's been about a month, I think now, since Metatron brought up, he had me title the video, Here Comes the Wave. Here Comes the Wave. And I wasn't sure what he was referring to, but I know when he says things like that to just go along with it. So, but the energy that he told me too, and I hope you guys are going to be able to see this. Yeah, you can actually. So I've had this for so long, and I work with it all the time, but I don't sit and look at it. Okay. I'm not sure if you can tell, just because on camera I know this is tricky. That's a wave in there. The wave is on the left. So I hope you guys can see it. But he told me last week to take a look at it, and sure enough, there's a wave in there. The wave, when you're talking about Saturn and Pluto at the same degree, Saturn is like the end of the line, it can be, that legacy, but he can also be restricting and like the energy of holding something back. And Pluto is like the water that comes up from the deep recesses of our mind, from the parts of us that have the feels, the heavy feels, whether it's happy or sad, it's that Plutonian energy is like what's below the surface. And, when they come together and then Saturn moves forward, then that Pluto energy can be released. So it's sort of like damming up that Plutonian energy right now. And then as we move toward January of 2020, they'll be together, and then Saturn will move past Pluto because Saturn moves more quickly than Pluto. So from this time, and really they came together around February of last year is when Saturn and the South Node, they weren't together, but they were close enough proximity that you could say that they were together. It's a conjunction. Even now, they're not, if you look at the sky, it's 360 degrees. They're not that far apart right now either. And with the South Node. And Pluto is coming to station at 20 degrees of Capricorn and will begin moving forward. Well, he's going to be at that degree for some time, but the degrees, then we have minutes within them. That's how we measure whether or not the planet's moving forward, because Pluto, the further out they are, the longer it takes them to come to a station and then to begin to move forward. It's even 1 degree. Pluto only goes 3 degrees a year about. So he moves very slowly. But it's the same degree, 20 degrees of Capricorn, where Saturn was when he moved retrograde. And it's the same degree where Pluto's South Node, his own South Node, is. Each of the planets, just like the moon, we have the North and the South Node that we call the nodes of fate. The planets also have their own North and South Node. So we're talking about the lower Plutonian energies, okay? And the lower Plutonian energies, which it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you're a Scorpio. Everyone's got Pluto in their chart. Everyone has the sign of Scorpio in their chart. So when you're talking about the lower energies of that, it's about being controlling, hanging on to something that has served its purpose, and it just we think that that's comfortable for us. In that way, Pluto can be associated with bad habits, habits that don't build your energy, habits that are just like that lower kind of insecure feeling of fear. Fear is Pluto on the South Node. Also Saturn there, but fear, Pluto, if we think of the higher energy, the higher vibration of Pluto being bringing up secrets from the deep, and power. Pluto is the planet of power. Then the opposite of that, and what keeps us from moving into our power, moving at all and being resistant, is fear. Okay, so a lot of fear to contend with for just, the overall energies, and procrastinating. You could kind of put that in with bad habits, but it's when we refuse to move forward. We can be hanging on to the past or replaying the past, telling ourselves terrible things, going over, details of stories or where we were wronged. It also is betrayal. It's dark money. It's money like bribes or, schemes when someone tricks you into taking money. So taking money from you, and abuse of power is what Pluto is about on his South Node. I was thinking how when I made that video, the last video that I made, I think it was for the Libra new moon, Metatron said that we were in an energy of now he's not reminding me, so maybe I won't talk about it right now. But we're going to read, because that 20 degrees of Capricorn, that's not like a small thing. Like Saturn sat there for a really long time. Pluto is now going to be sitting there for a really long time. So we are going to look at the Sabian symbol related to 20 degrees of Capricorn. And now he's reminding me, he said to me, it was the energy of obstruction of justice. And the news broke, shortly after that, secrets that came out about things that that the White House here was involved in. Also in relation to that then, and please understand that I don't have any, I don't have a dog in this fight. I really don't at all. I understand when there are people relating to a leader, any leader as a messiah, that's just that old tale of looking for a savior, needing to go outside of yourself to Christ, to Jesus, to be forgiven. Jesus was here's a demonstration. Here's how you come to enlightenment. Love everybody, accept everybody, forgive, 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 accept, love, don't live in fear. He was like, this is how to do it. Let me show you how to do it. It wasn't like, worship me, be completely dependent on me, see yourself as less than I am. It's the whole story of the Vesica Pisces story. And this is partly why my birthday is November 1st, 111, is because I teach the Trinity. And that's why I grew up in it, right? That's where, the Christ consciousness, the Christ or the Son, we, us, and the Creator, the Creator's energy, and then the bridge that fills the gap, our higher consciousness, and how we're all linked together, the energy, the highest form of the pure love version of Archangel Metatron that bridges the gap that pulls us all together, right? And so I just wanted to bring up that he did bring up the obstruction of justice, that was the energy that we're in. I found it amusing that it came out in another report that the person in the White House had said to the people from the Kremlin, it's okay that you interfered in the 2016 election because we do that too. And that's the thing about him. He says things like that. It's true. Like Central America, the Middle East. Okay, we've been deposing and imposing governments all over the world for a very long time. And at some point, that comes back. So no matter how a person gets into power, the Creator is in charge of that kind of thing. So we can always ask that the truth come out. We can ask that our vote is protected, that it's kept sacred, that there's no, mishandling. But remember that, I've looked at the chart, and the 1 year anniversary of the end of corruption video was the 28th as well. They reminded me of that. That's about the Pluto return for the United States, what we're working toward in this country, and how our past catches up at some point. And then it'll be another 250 years till Pluto comes back around. Rome was 500 years. So, take it as you will. But that video was about like what's to come in the future. And I felt like when it came, all of this news came out and the things that they had brought up about him, it's really like, I almost want to say when it really isn't, when maybe things don't move forward like a lot of people would like to see it, and say that would be just. If that doesn't happen, then understand that there's a precedent now, that whoever sits there from this point on can use your tax money to bribe other people to do their dirty work. Okay, so but this is what they were saying in the end of corruption, that it's the precedent moving forward. It's what's being created now that moves us into the future. And I'll let you watch that video if you'd like to, if you haven't seen it, but just let all of this stuff go, because remember what he brought up last time too was a flagpole with no flag. We don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not saying you can't like be an activist or stand up for the truth. I'm saying like that hatred, vitriol, that is, you're putting that into your own energy. That's also Pluto, but you're putting that into your own energy when you let that go toward anyone else at all, anyone. So, and there were a lot of people before this president who saw the last president, the former president, as the Messiah. And what was it that he said? I love myself and I recognize myself in everyone. Okay, so we're going to just keep that in mind as all of these things are going on around us, and distractions is what Metatron calls them. And I also wanted to say that someone else was offended when I said nonsense. I believe that fear is nonsense. That's what I believe. And I don't believe that all conspiracy theories are nonsense either. But the one that I was referring to was, and I'm not going to give it oxygen by repeating what it was, but someone was addressing it with me, and I thought, like, they don't even know what I'm talking about. So just, if that offends you, I think of fear as nonsense. Fear is an illusion. And fear, since we're talking about Pluto, is false evidence appearing real. Okay? And a lot of times it's where we manifest our own fear of the shadow. We can manifest our fears. And Pluto relates to that because it rules the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind rules 90% of our decision making. And that isn't a spiritual teaching. That's a scientific fact. That 90% of decisions that we make are instinctual, come from the subconscious. And so we want to make sure that we're, clearing the way for the frequency of love to come in. And before I read the Capricorn, this is the image that he brought me last week for October. Metatron is the bridge. And when you put, like, the energy that we're having right now, it's like the tunnel. And it's like we're wading in to the deep, deep waters. And what he was saying about this image was that we can still see the sky. We can still see the light. We can still see the hope. Look at the colors in the water, the color in the sky. And you're sheltered and you're protected underneath that bridge. It's really beautiful. So that's why this video is titled Wading In. We're going to wade in now to the deep corners, the deep recesses of our minds, and see what's actually happening there. And also, I want to mention too, Pluto is associated with paranoia and betrayal. So, we'll see how that plays out. It also rules worth, and in that way, wealth. Pluto and like the wealth that comes within the earth. He wanted me to mention, and always check with your doctor, obviously, with your medical provider to check on, supplements and things, see if they're okay for you. But if you could, because Pluto rules minerals, and he was saying that it would be good for us to be fortifying our physical bodies this month. So if you don't already, if you can take magnesium, zinc, calcium, if you have an opportunity to buy the chelated versions, that's chelated, starts with CH. If you could do that to, take those kind of supplements. We're moving into, in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, a time when all of the doors and windows will be closed and we've got that air circulating. And also saging the house. Saging kills bacteria. I think it's for 90 days in your house. My ex-husband walked in a couple hours ago and he was like, it always smells so good in here. I was like, it's sage. So yeah, if you could sage and, you don't have to do it like every 90 days, but just, it's a good idea to do that to keep the energy fresh in your house. Even if you're, for those of you in Australia and New Zealand, getting the winter icky, freshening up the air and getting ready to bring in a new vibration. But, we're going to be going through some very serious, having very serious long looks at ourselves. Okay? Because when Pluto moves forward I really need to get a camera, you guys. When Pluto moves forward on October 3rd, that's when Mercury moves into Scorpio, okay, and begins his 2-month stay there. So it's going to be a lot of deep healing of the mind and the thinking. And Mercury relates to, in Gemini, the mortal and the immortal self. So the self that's here and the higher self the vibration of the higher self that brings you the truth in a gentle and kind way, not the kind that brings it to you in a way that berates you or makes you feel less than. And Mercury was going to be moving through the darkest part of the zodiac. So it's really like anything that you can do right now to build up your vibration. He was talking to me again about music, and music, he's saying music cures all ills. I always look at great artists or songs that they're like a theme, right? That Metatron, that come through that energy of Metatron, that are what humanity needs at the time. And certain people take on that Mercury energy of bringing us that frequency of love and light and guidance. And they lift everybody, right? Those songs and the music. And a lot of them go with generations. We're going to read one of them later. But let's talk about Capricorn 20. A hidden choir is singing during a religious service. The fulfillment of an individual's creative function through his participation in a group performance consecrated to a transcendent realization of unity. So singing with the choir. And it also relates to the music of the spheres. And he's been bringing up music so much lately. I think about the past couple of months now. And that because it is a way to build your vibration. Like I've been in my car crying, and they've said to me, like, turn on this music. And then they're like, sing. And it really does help. It really does help. Not that we can't, ever like have those moments where we need a good cry. Everybody, that's a good thing to do. The emotional release is good. But we also don't want to stay there. We don't want to stay in the trough of the wave, is what Metatron is talking about. We want to move to the higher vibration and realize from the higher perspective that the deepest sorrow that you have now coming up to be healed, once you go into that healing and you come out the other side, you're not going to go back to that same pattern where you close yourself off, the scorpion, and just wait until somebody pokes you the wrong way and then you just zap them. That's not just Scorpios, by the way, that do that. But that is an energy of Scorpio, the lower energy. So we're going to all be really patient and understanding and kind with one another too, because we're going to be contending with this. Venus will move into Scorpio on the 8th or 9th, and always give yourself a day either way, because it depends on the ephemeris that astrologers are looking at, and it depends on where you live too. But on the 8th of October, when Venus moves into Scorpio, then the sun in Libra will be answering to Venus in Scorpio, and Mars, as Mars moves through Libra, he's the ancient ruler of Scorpio. Pluto is the modern ruler, so they'll be in an energy of what's called mutual reception. So in other words, Venus is answering for herself and Mars is answering for himself in those signs of Libra and Scorpio. But whenever we have like a buildup of planets in Scorpio, forget even that there's a 2-month retrograde of Mercury there, where it's the swamp. Okay, Scorpio is the fixed water. So all of the energies have elements and modes, okay? And the mode of Scorpio is fixed, where it can be stagnant, okay? What Metatron showed me years ago was wading down into that pond, into that murky water, that as you go through then to the other side of it, he showed me that you come out. Hang on, guys. I have a very small space here for props, so they're all piled up. When you go down through the roots, remember, like, the bottom of that pond is the rich sediment. That's where all of the, the iron, the minerals, it all settles there at the bottom. That's the good stuff, right? And then he showed me going through the roots, the reeds, and coming out the other side. And this doesn't look exactly like it, obviously, but it was the Matrix, which is just basically a web, of all of these continuing circles and lines woven together. That's why I don't number dimensions, because numbers are, that's a human understanding. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I just don't, that wasn't the way that it was shown to me. So I talk about like being above ego and not being above and being in an ego, but I don't refer to the dimensions because they all weave together. When you're in the fifth plane, some people call it, or the fifth dimension, there's still duality there. So we're talking about moving out of duality, accepting and loving the shadow, forgiving the shadow, but then living from the light. And the way that you do that is by loving and forgiving the shadow. When we're caught up in these conspiracy theories and we're spending our time like listening to this and that, we're actually feeding the shadow, because anytime that we're feeding fear, the shadow is growing. And I'm talking about within us. When you're feeding the light side of you and the side of you that isn't stuck in that stagnant old story or old thinking or holding on to vengeance, is another Pluto, lower Pluto. When we want to avenge our reputation, or, someone did something to wrong us and we want to set that straight. Forgiving it and allowing the Creator to set that straight, and trusting that, it all comes around. It's the wheel. And it all makes its way back, and everything ends up being in balance and restored in that way. But when you're talking about dealing with the shadow and the light, it isn't like when I had seen some what do we call it? Shenanigans that I was doing somewhere else in another timeline, and I was pretty much being throwing a temper tantrum, and I said to my personals, I call them the angels, like the team, the three that are like always with me, closest to me all the time. I said to them, I'm so sorry that, and they said, we enjoy all facets of you. So it's that, just accepting and loving. And so I say that to myself, I enjoy all facets of you, instead of getting on ourselves, because that can be martyrdom, where we recognize something that we did, where we maybe could have done it better, but we can't quite, let it go. We just want to feel really bad about it. That's that old religious story where, you need penance, or you need to feel really crappy about yourself for a while, and then you can let that go. You can let it go right away. And then Metatron is saying to tell yourself an encouraging story after you've recognized what it is that you see as a flaw. Then letting that go, and then paying yourself a compliment is what he's saying. And as you walk by the mirror this month, paying yourself a compliment would be another really good thing to do, because we really, when it comes down to it, it's only you that can decide how the day is going to go. Metatron always says too, every morning is a new chance, a new start, a new dawn. Every day there's a fresh start. So when I was talking about, because Pluto rules bad habits, and we've been having that Neptune, Jupiter square, so a lot of things coming up for people with addiction, which is Pluto, you don't need to, like, if you did go to sleep after, taking something or whatever it is, and you don't, like, in the morning, then don't, just let that go. Another good thing to do in the morning is Metatron has me like open my arms as wide as they go and bring my hands up over my head, and I just say, yes, Creator, yes. It feels awesome when you do that. It does so much for your energy when you can do that. It boosts your morale, is what Metatron is saying. It boosts your morale, because it's like, here I am, Creator. I'm ready for whatever you have to bring me this day, and just trust that everything is going to be, you getting signs and having conversations with people that are uplifting and helpful. And then, this is also a good time to look at where your pride is showing. When you know that you did do something and into someone, and you can't apologize, because if you apologize, that would be like saying that you're less than that person, and no. Or not recognizing yourself as your higher self can be where we have that false ego, false pride, where we need to just be humble and look to the angels, look to Jesus, look to people outside of ourselves. You are the glory of God incarnated in a human body. You are. And once you recognize that all of you is perfect, that dark story of shadow is an illusion, it's fear, and it's things of days gone by, and you can just forgive it and release it, as the creator doesn't even remember that it happened anymore. There's not anybody up there keeping score. Was this person good or was this person bad? The creator just recognizes that it just is. It just is. And we come into that place of just accepting the isness, not having to fix ourselves or looking for problems within ourselves, or thinking that we haven't quite measured up because we're not completely in our light body all the time. Or because, a lot of times now in the spiritual community, it's like if you get sick, some people like to say like it's always ascension symptoms, but a lot of times it's just something that we need to work on. There's an imbalance somewhere. That's not bad. Like, we don't have to say it's an ascension symptom, because otherwise we're admitting that there's something wrong with us. That's still that old religious entanglement stuff that we're moving out of. We're moving out of it, people. So back to the choir. But when you do sing in a group like that, or you're anywhere, it could be a concert. When everyone's singing in concert like that, and you have just such a sense of unity, such a feeling of belonging, and recognizing that we're all working toward the same goal, that we all have the same stories. We're just playing them out in different way. Having grace for ourselves right now, and having grace for other people. And then he's also saying to take a step away from people who have the influence on you, where he's saying like they're always looking down. They're facing the ground. They're seeing like the worst case scenario, or they like to blame other people because they don't recognize that what they see in other people is just an aspect of themselves. Taking a step away from them. You can take a break. You don't have to have a big talk with anybody, but you can just kind of distance yourself. I had this myself last week with somebody where I just was like, I can't right now. I just can't right now. Not like anything bad about them, but just, being careful with my own energy, because you want to make sure, because whoever and including the television he's bringing up too, that has an influence. What you're putting into your body, as well as what you're putting into your mind, has an influence on what your vibration is, and what you're sensing and what you're feeling, as well as what he's talking about. But especially steering clear of negative thinking. I mean, obviously, like that could be happening with someone to bring up like maybe something in you that you didn't recognize, but you don't have to stay there and stay in it, and allow the negative thinking and constantly having to boost someone else's morale. Not worry about yourself, but take care of yourself right now. Put yourself first right now, because this is not, we are going through this 2 month. It's going to be really intense, super intense, but we're still building toward the culmination of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that we've been building toward all year. That takes place in February. And like I said, that could go on. Those energies could be dissipated like about March or so, but we'll see. But that's what he was just saying to me right now. So Pluto is stationing on his own south node. So that could be, if you're talking about where we realize that we're all in this together. If you're looking at the lower energy, then, you're talking about people being opposed to one another and still not recognizing that the shadow serves the light, and that we're all interdependent, is what Metatron is saying. That we can stand out and be unique, and of course we're individuals, but that we're interconnected, we're woven together through the frequency of the Creator's pure love, not any other kind, not conditional love, but the pure unconditional love energies. And if there are entanglements where it was shown to you that you had to do something to earn, a lot of times that could be with the parents, with the mother especially, but recognizing that you are unconditionally loved, you're unconditionally supported. Saturn and the South Node is where we've had that feeling that we're unsupported. In fact, I was a few nights ago doing some things with my light body, and I realized that my knees were bending because I wasn't feeling that secure, safe feeling. My knees were like buckling because I didn't feel supported. because I needed to work through something so that I could get back to that feeling of being supported. We can't open our hearts fully if we have fear in the root chakra. Okay, so we're going to do, during the month, I'm going to do a meditation for the root chakra and opening our hearts. The violet ray meditation that I did, I don't know how many months ago it was, talked about that somewhat, but you could do that meditation. I'm going to do another one for the root chakra and funneling the energy, the frequency of pure love through the root chakra coming up to the heart, because the heart cannot fully open and expand if we're in a place of fear, if we're covering that up, that Scorpio in the shell, in the moon too, the crab. So we want to make sure that we're stepping away from people who ask too much of us, is what Metatron is saying, and just releasing them and allowing them to go. And sometimes we hold on because of control issues, because we know that the person needs us, they need us. But every soul has its own journey and makes its own decisions, and there's nothing that we can ever do to interfere with that, even if we think we might like to, especially when it comes to children. At the end of the month, when we come to the new moon, there's an energy of letting go of parenting in the way that we think parenting, what it means to be a good parent. So there's a lot of stuff we'll be working with Mother Mary on mother issues and issues of mothering, parenting, is what she's saying. On the 8th, then, Venus enters Scorpio. Mercury and Venus are going to come together at that last degree of, that'll be the 30th of October, so we'll talk about that when we get, but they're traveling pretty much together right now. They're not very far apart. So again, music, Venus in Scorpio, Venus used to cheat on her husband all the time with Mars. So yeah, there's lots of sexy vibe going on with all the Scorpio energy. And there's also, that relates to intimacy. And so what they were talking to me about was really, spending time, if you can, male or female, in a bathtub of water. You could use some oils, essential oils in there. Epsom salts is always good as well. And allowing yourself to just be submerged in the water, and then putting lotion all over your body. Okay, and saying kind things to your body, building up your body. He's saying that that also helps to build resistance and builds up the immune system. When you encourage your body, when you say loving things to our body. How many of us criticize our body just incessantly, all the time, and never recognize the body as the miracle that it is, and what it has put up with, and what it has fought through, and how resilient it is. So if you can do that, and then, putting the lotion all over your body. This is especially important for those of you who have been through any kind of sexual trauma or any of you that suffer from PTSD, which, we know now that can occur in childhood. But it can occur anytime. So those of you who have issues of PTSD, we want to make sure that we're, have that feeling of safekeeping, he's saying, within the body, and that we're intimately connected with our body. So if you can say encouraging, kind things to yourself when you pass by the mirror, when you put lotion on, really treating yourself with kid gloves, is what he's saying. So on the 10th, then, for the gateway, I had some stuff to bring forward about that, but I think I'm going to add that into, because the 1010 gateway is 3 days before the full moon. So 1010 is basically the entrance to the full moon energy. So I'll talk about it more as it comes closer. But at that time, Venus is who rules Taurus, where Uranus is right now, and for the next 6 or so years. She is opposing Uranus. Venus is in opposition to Uranus. So when things are opposing, there can be that, but they're also exchanging energy, okay? And so Venus will be in Scorpio, answering to Pluto when she opposes Uranus in Taurus. We'll see if anything comes up with related to money. It's funny when that Neptune or I'm sorry, Mercury Pluto square came up, and the whole story about the communication, the phone call, Mercury, that had gone on in secret relating to tax money and being used in a subversive way. Pluto relates to taxes as well. When all of that came out, I hadn't even mentioned that still, we're dealing with that with money as well. That there's a lot of, when Pluto and the South Node and Saturn are together in the sign of banking, which Saturn rules, then we're still talking about things with money, and Venus is also money. Pluto rules wealth, and Capricorn is banking. And then, well, not just banking, but institutions. Banking is one of those. And Taurus relates to money and value. And so this could be like this could be like the gateway energy where our values begin to shift. I feel like I want to read that now. Okay. But yeah, we could be looking at things like I used to have this go through my head all the time. When I was contemplating filing for divorce. What price freedom? What price freedom? I feel like I should say that to some of you. Sometimes the reasons that we stay in situations that are not for our best is because I think a lot of the times men have that obligation to financially support. And then in a lot of marriages, it causes so many problems because people don't realize these contracts. My ex-husband and I were just discussing soul contracts a couple of hours ago too, because he's a double Sag, and even though he likes to pretend that he's not into any of all of this, I've seen his astrology. But what price freedom? What are you holding on to? Are you staying in a job? Are you in a position and somewhere in your life where you are not being treated with the respect that you deserve? Or you don't feel good about yourself because you feel like you're being told to leave, to move on, but you can't let go. That's this energy too. And so as Uranus opposes, that's a serious energy for not only shifting values, but also coming into a new place of money and balancing worth. And are you getting what you deserve? Are you getting what you're giving? What's that exchange like? Okay, Venus. What is that exchange that you're making? So that's happening on the 10th, 11th. On the 11th. Okay. On the 11th, Mercury at 11:47 Universal Time. So that's the 4 and the 7. That's an 11. So at 11:11 Universal Time, Mercury enters his shadow degree at 11 degrees of Scorpio. Okay. So what the shadow degree is, when Mercury comes into, he's not going into retrograde. He's coming up to the 11th degree. Then he is going to move forward until the 31st of October. And then he's going to move back to the 11th degree. The 11th degree is very important. And so he had me look at that as well. The 11th degree of Scorpio. And so this is for the Mercury retrograde energy that we're going to be in for a couple of months, okay? So it is Scorpio 11, a drowning man is being rescued. And it denotes the deep concern of the social group for the safety of individuals, but really like how we relate to those that we see, not just in our own spiritual community, but to the other. Okay, like, do we still see them through love? Do we have compassion for them? People that are still in fear and in the shadow, or looking outside themselves to someone else to save them, or believe that someone else is a Messiah. And even though we don't believe that, do we still love them and have compassion? He's saying, do we recognize ourselves in them? And through that recognition, then feel love and realize that we're all together. He's saying we're all swimming in the same swamp at this point, right? We're all in the same place. And do we have compassion for other people? Can we just not judge them? Because that's really you judging yourself, right? It's me too. I always judge myself. Cancel. But I used to, right before I said that. So it says the symbol should be interpreted as revealing the basic feeling of relationship between the individual and his fellow men. What is pictured is the expression of this relationship rather than the experience of the person who perhaps carelessly ventured too far beyond his depth and then was given a second chance to live. A man risks his life to save another. This is love, based on a sense of responsibility produced by a vivid sense of interrelatedness. Sustained by this love, the individual may be more secure in venturing forth, but this assurance can also lead to unwarranted daring and trust. Okay, I just cancel that. That doesn't fit with me. And then it relates to humanitarianism, that what the humanitarianism that we display is something that we learn in the values that we're given that are passed down through the family lines. That life is precious, that no one's life is more important than another person's life. And that relates to that Venus opposing Uranus as well. That, coming to a sense when it's almost the same story as when we get rid of all of the environmental protection so that we can produce, so that, we can line the pockets of shareholders, and how long are we going to put up with that? Until we recognize that, it's the everyday person that spends the money, that doesn't hoard the money, that builds the economy. It's sort of like, are we going to value the individuals more? Are we going to value something he's saying that benefits the whole? Or are we just looking at our own selves? Our own selfish needs, okay? Or are we looking to everyone else being worthy and deserving of love and redemption just like we are? And then, so that's interesting though, because that's going to be playing out over this next couple of months, where we're going to keep being reminded of those around us who maybe have waded into waters that they aren't able to stand up in. Like this water that he was showing me here, he was saying that when you come to the end of this pier, you won't drown. You'll be buoyed. You'll be buoyed by spirit. And that's when we're in that place of receiving, in that divine feminine energy of receiving. And in order to be in that energy of receiving, we need there not to be any fear in the way of that. Really, this is an opportunity for all of us this month to change our thinking, because Pluto does rule the subconscious mind. It's the stories that you tell yourself, and it's the lingering fears and that little tiny voice that maybe you don't even hear so clearly all the time, that's afraid of this or afraid of that, or and so you could just ask that be brought to you in a way that's helpful for you, and that you're able to recognize it when it comes. So he wanted me to read some lyrics or a couple more things. So how I talked about Pluto ruling paranoia, because it's like that lower feeling of be it living in fear that someone's going to betray us, or this could happen or that could happen, fear. So I was looking through my newsfeed right before I was finishing up my notes, and this man, and I just love him. He's a, what do you call it? A Reiki master, and he puts up the best posts. And he posts metanoia, the journey of changing one's mind, heart, self, way of life. Because that's really how it goes, right? We change our thinking, then our heart opens, because we're not telling ourselves all of the things we should be afraid of anymore. And then we change, because we changed within, we change without. Our circumstances and our way of life then follow. Change your thinking, change your life. Okay, that's really the way it's always done, whether you're into secularism or you're into spirituality. Change your mind, change your thinking, change your life. Okay, so that's where we're going. That's where we're going to end up. Okay, after we wade in and we go through all of this and we come out the other side, it can really be it's going to be so empowering. All you have to do is surrender and let go and just allow it to happen. Okay, so I was going to mention something in relation to Greta. And it dawned on me, like, as I was saying, I don't understand what the problem is. And Metatron was bringing to my mind that when this movement first began in the generation, the baby boomers generation, and I've done so many charts for people born in the 50s that have what do we call it? The crystal signature, or however you want to say that, but a very high vibration. I've seen it over and over again in people's natal charts, that the movement could not stalled out. We needed to be interconnected. We needed to be globalized. We needed the internet. It wasn't that generation didn't do what they were meant to do. Obviously, that's the way that Pluto works. He's a generational planet. Everyone does our assignments. That's what Metatron is saying. But he wanted me to read this, "The Times They Are A-Changin" by Bob Dylan. "Come gather around people wherever you roam and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone if your time to you is worth saving. And you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changin'. Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, and keep your eyes wide. The chance won't come again, and don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin." The Wheel of Fortune. "And there's no telling who that it's namin'. For the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changin'. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. For he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. The battle outside ragin' will soon shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changin'. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you don't understand, what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend your hand, for the times they are a-changin'." I love it. So, yeah, let's do that. Let's make that our anthem, right? Let's get everybody else on board, and let's stop relying on the government entities and the systems, the corrupt systems that we're all dealing with, because it's really, like Greta said, that nothing changes until each individual changes. And it starts with us. It starts with us loving ourselves, accepting ourselves, seeing everyone else as worthy and deserving of the same love and the same acceptance. Everyone else is fighting a battle that we know nothing about. Everyone that you come across that the Creator puts in your path might just need the smile from you that day. And when you go out in these next couple of months and you see people, smile at them. It makes you feel good when you smile. Smile at them. That person might be, there's so many people now, you guys, that are talking about leaving the planet. Anything that you can do to build up somebody else without murdering yourself. Okay, keep your energy safe. But just exchanging a smile or a compliment with stranger. Being nice to somebody, chatting with the person who's ahead of you in line. And then the new moon, we're going to talk more about letting go of the kids, of the children. The new moon in Scorpio on October 28th. And then we come to Samhain, which it's traditionally celebrated from the eve of the 31st and then all day November 1st. I was born on Samhain. I'm a November 1st girl. So the Samhain Festival is when we celebrate the midpoint between, now we're looking at, with the equinox, it was in balance, and then we go toward Samhain is when we're halfway between the equinox and the solstice. So we'll be halfway at the end of this month to when we start seeing the sun appearing more for those of us in the northern hemisphere. And it's a festival that celebrates the harvest and abundance and plenitude. And that relates to Pluto as well. So if things come up with money, when we're talking about that full moon on the 13th, it's trining Jupiter and it's squaring Pluto. That's definitely a judgment. That's a judgment energy. So always just expect like whatever is for my highest and best is moving forward. But this could be a financial reset for people where maybe the wheel starts spinning if it's been going the other way, it starts spinning the other way. And then he's talking about becoming more productive with that energy as well, that we won't feel like we're being like held back, held down, spinning our wheels, that Saturn South Node energy. So, but yeah, we're going to do a couple more videos during this month, you guys, just because, we're brave, right? We got this. And he's showing me us in scuba gear because the deep dark water of Scorpio. So we're all suited up, ready to go. Please do something kind for yourself. Take care of your energy. Go have a massage. Get your feet massaged, get your face massaged. I think there's like 126 muscles in the face. So that's never a bad idea either. But being kind, treating your body well. And we're going to talk about later in the month, moving into our light bodies and how diet has an effect as well as dancing and having fun. Always when Mercury's involved, it's a good idea to sing, to dance, he's saying like, oh yeah, and he's reminding me because of Scorpio being fixed water or that fixed energy where we're resistant, that he's saying stretch your muscles, move your muscles, have there be some movement, even if it's the slightest movement, even if you can only do a little bit of movement, that'll help out. So anyway, everybody, happy October. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Sending you all so much love. And thank you for listening. And I will talk to you shortly. Okay. Bye-bye.